Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode in the Get Unstuck series. I'm Sarah Archer. I'm a career and leadership coach, and I work with female leaders, often at a crossroads in their career, to create the career success that is right for them. That means they have impact and they get the salary and reward that they deserve without having to sell out and not be authentic or burn out through taking on too much. And the Get Unstuck series is just to give you 15 minutes in your week to think about your career. Because I know when we're all focused on the day job and what we've got to get done, thinking about your career advancement, your career development, where you want to take your career can just fall to the bottom of the pile. So I wanted you to have 15 minutes in the week when you could just spend a little bit of time thinking about your career, getting some ideas, some tips, some inspiration. And my sessions are always practical. They're around 15 minutes, and there's always something you can take away, either an exercise tool or tip to try, or just some thoughts around, shaking up your career in some way or moving things forward. So if you are joining me here live, please do say hello, give me a little wave or say hi in the comments. If you've got questions as we're going along, please do ask them, and I will endeavour to do my best to answer whatever you might be throwing at me. So today's session is all about how to boost your leadership confidence. And I wanted to talk about this because when you are a leader, there are huge expectations on you all of the time. There's expectations from your team, from your boss, from the senior leadership team, the board, to have impact, to make decisions, to move things forward, to deliver. And, that can create a huge amount of pressure. Plus, the types of decisions you might be making as a leader have a huge impact. They have impact on people, they have impact on the business, they have impact on your team, and that can kind of weigh heavily and play on your confidence as well. Plus, as a leader, you often have to deal with lots of different situations and scenarios which you may never have dealt with before. So you're constantly having to take on things and take them on without maybe saying, I need help with this, I need support with this, I haven't done this before, I'm not sure about, the direction I need to take. And your frame of reference can be role models of previous leaders you might have worked with, some of which who may have been great, may have been really inspirational, and some which may have not been so great. So that will play into your leadership confidence as well, in terms of who you may have worked alongside or for in the past. And all of this together can make you question who you are as a leader, what your leadership style is, how effective that style is. It might make you think about, how am I going to get the results I need to get? How do I motivate my team to be high performing? And this all together can make your leadership confidence feel a bit wobbly at times. And that's completely understandable wobbliness, because, you are having to step out of your comfort zone on a regular basis, to take on all these things that you may not have done before. You might be finding that you are second guessing your decisions. Maybe you're kind of thinking, is this the right thing that I'm doing? Am I leading in the right way? It might make you feel doubt about the direction that you're embarking on with your team. It might, if you have people-pleasing tendencies, it might kind of push those to the fore, because it might feel like you're trying to please your team, please your boss, please your clients, please the board. And again, that can play into kind of feeling a bit wobbly in terms of your leadership confidence. It might trigger imposter feelings. Who am I to be this leader? What do I know about this? How can I be the one who, makes the decisions or takes that stance? And if you're surrounded by peers who seem to be on the exterior very confident, then obviously that can exacerbate your confidence wobbles as well. So I guess the first thing to say is just to notice that it's okay. We all experience these wobbles, and even those very confident colleagues who may look super confident may be having those inner confidence wobbles as well. They might look at you and think you look super confident and that you don't have those wobbles, but we all have them. I work with lots and lots of female leaders, and all of them will have some sort of wobble going on. Now, what you don't want is for that wobbliness, that confidence, self-doubt, shakiness to be an ongoing thing, because obviously that can really take its toll. So if you're noticing your confidence is wobbling, it's important to think about the action you need to take to support yourself and to boost your confidence. And what I tend to notice with my clients is that it's the inner work that we need to do that will give you the foundation for ongoing leadership confidence. It's a bit like thinking about physical exercise. So, if you do the inner work, then you're going to have this inner core of self-confidence, which will help you navigate all of those decisions, the direction you're taking, the boundaries you have to set, the saying no around the kind of people pleasing. That inner self-confidence will support that, because leadership confidence, like any kind of confidence, it's a muscle. You have to keep working it. It's not something that is just fixed. You have to keep giving yourself that boost, which is a bit like that physical confidence. If you work out at the gym, working on your inner core supports all the other exercises, all the other kind of activities that you're going to undertake. By having that strong inner core, it's the foundation, and it's the same with your leadership confidence. And obviously, doing that inner work means that it will increase, because you'll have that inner self-confidence, it will increase the trust people have in you, people around you, your team, the board, the management team, clients. It will then give them that confidence in you, because they can see that inner core even when you're making tough decisions that they don't like. So the question, I'm sure, is, well, what does that actually mean in terms of inner work? And it starts essentially with our beliefs that we hold about ourselves and the story that we tell ourselves about who we are as a leader. And obviously, if we don't work on this, then it's harder for us to be authentic. And that obviously impacts the trust that people have in us and around us. So, for example, I was working with a head of HR recently, and when we started to kind of unpack some of the beliefs that she held around herself, what emerged was that she felt she had to be super professional all the time, and that to reveal anything about her personal life was a vulnerability and a weakness, and therefore she really didn't bring any of her kind of personal self, her self outside work, into work. And what this meant is that she wasn't bringing her whole self to work, and therefore people around her found it hard to engage with her, hard to connect with her. It impacted her relationships, the strength of her relationships. And it meant that for her team, for her boss, for the stakeholders that she was working with, their level of trust in her professionally was good, but as a person, they couldn't find that connection with her, and therefore it made them very hard for them to feel she was someone that they could really work alongside. And so she could see that it was becoming very limiting for her. And so what we did was we had to work on the narrative that she was telling herself about bringing her whole self to work. And then once we'd worked on that narrative and that belief, she was then able to start to experiment with bringing more of her personal life into work. And the impact was huge when she started to do that. And that then reinforced the belief work that we did and the ultimate confidence that we did. Now, the reason obviously people find the inner work more challenging is because it is hard to do, because a lot of the beliefs we hold about ourselves are unconscious beliefs. A lot of them were formed in childhood or our early life or our early career. And what tends to happen with beliefs is that they can be a result maybe even of a kind of throwaway comment or a bit of feedback that we've got. And we then believe that to be true about us. And what we do is we look for evidence that supports that belief that we have about ourselves. And therefore, we discount the evidence that would disprove that belief. And so we just build up all this kind of information, evidence about ourselves that becomes ingrained, and therefore it becomes more work to unpack and change that belief. But the good news is you can change those beliefs, you can reframe them, and you can start to embed a new belief about yourself as a leader. So you definitely can work on that. And then once you do, it can be really transformative. But because they're unconscious, they're a little bit hard to notice. And one way of noticing it is noticing what you're triggered by. Excuse me. So if you're noticing that certain things are triggering you and you're having maybe quite a impactful or overwhelming reaction to something, that can then give you information about, okay, why is that so important to me? Why is that triggering me? And underneath it, you can begin to spot beliefs. So again, I had another client who was a head of marketing, and what she noticed was that she was being challenged by a very confident peer in the management team who was not only confident, she was very direct, this peer. She was a very fast decision maker. And my client had a huge reaction when she was being put on the spot by this person around a particular decision or a direction that they were taking. And it triggered a belief for her when we unpacked it, that she wasn't good enough, she wasn't sharp enough, she wasn't able to think on her feet. And so in a way, it was helpful that that colleague had enabled my client to kind of work out something was going on, because she had such an overwhelming reaction to being challenged by that client. It made her want to think about what was happening for her, and then what she could start to do was unpack that belief and start to do the work around changing that belief. So you could think about, am I being triggered by something or some things at the moment, and just get curious about what they may be. Excuse me. Because they will be contributing to your confidence, maybe taking a bit of a dip. And then what you can start to do as well alongside that, because they are interlinked, is to notice the story that you might be telling yourself about what is happening. Because obviously you can change the narrative, and we have narratives that are positive about what we do and narratives that are negative about what we do. I don't know what's going on with my voice today. Excuse me. I'm a little bit hoarse. So, when something's gone really well, we might notice that narrative we tell ourselves about a leader is really, positive and up there, and, we're really great at what we do. And then when something doesn't go well, or we're, having to deal with a lot of challenging things, our narrative might change. It might be around, how we're not good enough, or we're not dealing with things really well, or we don't know enough, or, whatever it might be. So again, it's just giving yourself the space to notice what stories am I playing out to myself. And again, a lot of this is unconscious, but it's bringing it into our consciousness around, this is not a helpful narrative that I'm playing out here. And I certainly experienced all of this as well. So, but I've done a lot of inner work. When I worked as an HR director, having to do a lot of things around, restructuring, redundancies, things I hadn't necessarily done before or led before. I definitely experienced a lot of the self-doubt and the beliefs about myself and the narrative I would tell myself about what was working, what wasn't working. But I did the inner work. I did the inner core work because I knew I needed to, in order to be resilient as a leader and inspire confidence in the people around me. And you can do that work as well. And one of the things that I've noticed recently is I've been working with quite a few of my clients in my Ambition Plan program. And in that, we do some work around leadership brand and noticing what our current leadership brand might be. So what are the maybe 10 things we're known for at the moment? And with one of my clients, this exercise was transformative for her, because what she started to notice is actually the things about her leadership brand that made her different to her peers and were real strengths in the business that she hadn't been valuing, and that she'd been telling herself a story about because it was different to her peers, and because it meant that she had to challenge them on certain things because that was her strength and it linked to her specialism. And she started to see, by us shaping her leadership brand, how important it was to the business, and how actually it was enabling her peers in the management team to be better at what they did because she brought this strength. So it was a really kind of light bulb moment for her around what was actually unique to her and a strength to her, and how she could change her narrative to actually support this being something really valuable, rather than seeing it as a negative because her peers found it challenging. So, so sometimes just doing that little bit of reflective work can be really helpful at helping you understand, actually, I might be finding this difficult, but I'm finding it difficult because it's a strength that I'm bringing, and it's really useful to the team and to the business. Because obviously our goal is for us to be authentic and to recognize and amplify our strengths as a leader, and get comfortable with our vulnerabilities, but be able to recognize and own and reinforce our own leadership identity, because what you bring will be unique, and it will be added value to what your peers in the leadership team might bring, or your team that you are actually working with. So the takeaway I'm going to suggest to you today are a couple of takeaways. So one is to recognize what's going on. So is your confidence wobbly at the moment because you're having to step out of your leadership zone a lot, because you're having to take on lots of new things that you haven't maybe done before, and therefore thinking about what support you need to help you navigate those comfort zones, because you can ask for support as a leader as well. The second thing would be to think about what might be triggering you, if you are being triggered, and what that might be giving you in terms of information about some of your beliefs, and whether you want to start doing some belief work to change some of the unhelpful beliefs that you might be holding about yourself as a leader. Similarly, thinking about, what's my awareness around my narrative? What do I tell myself that's positive about myself as a leader? What do I tell myself that's negative about myself as a leader? And maybe thinking about the leadership brand exercise that could then reinforce the positive, so you can amplify that leadership narrative that is about what you bring, that is unique and different. And just to get curious about what's going on around your leadership identity, because we always want to be growing as leaders. It's never going to be static. And so if you're having a confidence wobble, it might be that you're going through a growth phase in your leadership identity as well. And just being okay with that, and not beating yourself up if you're feeling a little bit low in confidence at the moment, because obviously that's not helpful. And obviously, confidence work can be challenging. So if you felt like you wanted some support around any of the areas I've mentioned today, then please obviously do get in touch. I love doing confidence work. It's one of my specialisms, particularly with female leaders, helping you amplify your impact, and really kind of own your unique leadership identity. So that's it for today. Next week, I'm going to be talking about how you can fast track your next promotion as a leader. So if that's something you've been thinking about, and obviously the summer is a time to be, thinking about your positioning for the next quarter, then obviously do join me next Wednesday at 12:15. Have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you back here next Wednesday.